Hello, MDLP fourth graders. Today we are going to have a lesson on how to read and write multi-digit whole numbers. Okay, to do that, we have to know a couple things about our numbers first. First of all, we need to know about this word right here, multi-digit. So our first vocabulary word that we are going to learn about is the word digit. Okay, so if you have your math notebook, you can go ahead and write it in it now. Digit. Okay, so first of all, we have to think about what is a digit. Well, a digit is just the mathematical term for the numerals that we use in math. So the digits that we deal with are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So there are 10 digits, even though I only went to the number 9. Do you see that? But if you counted them, we've got the digit 0. So we need to count that one as well. So there'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So those are the 10 digits that we use in our math system, okay? So in your math notebook, make sure that you write down a digit, and you can just remind yourself that it is these numerals, okay? All right, next up, we're going to think about how we name and read these digits, especially when there's more than one. To do that, we're going to start off thinking about a swamp. So I've got a picture right here that is of a swamp. So I'm going to put that here on our board, right there. So there's a swamp. So now I want you to pretend that you're out house hunting, okay? You're looking to buy a house, and you find this amazing house. Looks like this, so cool, right? And you go down a street where that house is, and you see it, and it's right next to the swamp, just like that. But when you're walking down that street, you also notice there's another house right next door, exactly alike, like a carbon copy of that house. And it's right next door to the first one. So you've got this house next door to this house, next door to that swamp. Which house do you think would be worth more money? This one or this one? Remember, they look exactly alike. The only difference is this guy, he's further away from the swamp. So this one is going to be worth more. Numbers work like that too. If we think about something that looks like this right here is called a decimal. Looks like a period, right? So a decimal, when we've got places, like the places that the houses are in, like this, we can count these places. And the farther we get from the decimal, the more the house is worth. Same thing with numbers. The farther we get from the decimal, the more the digit is worth. So it becomes a number when it's sitting in its place. With houses, these numerals are going to have an address. So if I went to this house, your realtor, if they were going to show you the house they wanted you to buy, they would say, oh, you need to go to 123 Cherry Lane. And that's where that house would be, right? And this house might be next door at 1234 Cherry Lane. So the same thing happens with the places that our numbers are going to be sitting in. So this very first place for numbers is called the ones place. So that's kind of like the address of it. So it's the ones. Oh, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move our houses up a little bit higher and our swamp up a little bit higher since we won't be needing them quite as much. And I'm going to make our places or the addresses for the numbers up a little higher so you can see it. So here's our decimal, okay? And that very first place was called the ones place. Okay, the place right next to it, the next address, is called the tens place. The next place is called the hundreds place. The next place is called the thousands place. Okay, so as you can see, each place, when we're moving away from the swamp or moving away from the decimal, is getting bigger. One thing that you also might notice, if I wrote these as just looking like this, if this is the ones place, this was the tens, this right here was the hundreds, and this right here is the thousands place. If I wrote them like numbers like this, where you can see a 1, a 10, 100, and 1,000, you can see that this 1 is in each one of these digits, each one of these numbers, right? The 1 doesn't change. What does change is here there are no zeros. When I move next door, I get 1 0 added to the place. When I move over here, the 1 and the 0 stay the same, but there's 1 more 0 added. The next spot, I get another 0. So each place is increasing by 1 0. In math, can you think about, if with your multiplication facts, how in the world do we ever add a 0 to a number? What we do is we multiply by 10. So if I'm in this place and I take a 1 times 10, I get 10. If I take 10 times 10, I get 100. If I have 100 times 10, I get 1,000. And it would keep going if I were going to make my places even bigger. The next one would be 10 times bigger than that, which would be 10,000. So each place, I'm just adding a 0, which is multiplying times 10. So I can say in this number system right here that each place is 10 times more than the place before. So this one is worth 10 times more than that one. This is 10 times more than this place, and this place is 10 times more than that one. So if I looked at my houses and they were right next door to each other, even though they look exactly alike, this house right here is 10 times more than this one. And this one, remember, was the one that was going to be worth the least because it's right next to the swamp. That's the same thing right here. This one right here is the smallest place here dealing with our whole numbers, okay? So first thing I'm going to do is memorize these places, okay? So I've got ones, tens, hundreds, then we go to the thousands. We are going to have some more places we're going to work with, but today we're just going to be working with these first 4 places. This little thing right here, my marker just went dry. I'm going to get another marker. This place right here, I'm going to put a comma. Every 3 groups of numbers in math is called a period. So these are a period, the ones period. After we have the ones period, we have a comma. We're going to have 3 more places that we're going to learn about later, and that's going to be called the thousands period, and we have a comma after it as well. Okay, so the thing that's really important about numbers is that we never have to worry about reading anything bigger than 1 period at a time, which is 3 numbers at a time. So even way back, like in first grade and kindergarten, you knew how to read 3 numbers at a time. So if I had the number that looked like this, I'm going to go ahead and move my house and our swamp right now. If I had a number that looked like this, if I had 412, I'm going to get a better marker, darn it. Okay, so if I had a number that looks like this, 412. Okay, we know that we read that number as 412. If you can read that number, you can read numbers of any size if you do this one trick, and that's memorizing the names of the commas. This comma right here, after you finish the ones period, it comes right here. It's going up to the thousands period, and it's kind of like the announcer that the next period's coming on. The name of that comma is thousand. So if I am reading a number, and I can put any digits I want in these places, you just have to remember that only 1 digit can go in each place at a time. You can never put 2 digits in a place. So I could choose any digit I want. Remember, digits were the numbers 0 through 9, or the numerals, I should say. So let's say that I chose 9, 7, 4, and 1. These are just random numerals. I could have chose any that I wanted. Okay, so I've got a 9 sitting in the thousands place, a 7 sitting in the hundreds, a 4 sitting in the tens, and a 1 sitting in the ones. So when I read this number, I want to read them in groups of 3. Well, here I'm going to start. There aren't 3 groups. There's just that one number. So I just say what it is. This is a 9. So I say the number 9. But look right here. The next thing I come to is the comma. Whenever I come to a comma, I have to say the comma's name. So this would be 9. The comma's name is 1,000, so 9,000. Now here's a group of 3 numbers. I'm going to read them just like I did in kindergarten, 741. So this number is 9,741. So remember, I'm looking for groups of 3. Okay, so 9, there's not even a group of 3, so I just say it by itself, 9,000, because that's the name of that comma, 741. Okay, so let's get some more places added to our chart. Okay, so I already know now that I've got the ones place. Next to that, I had the tens. Then I had the hundreds. And if you remember, each place is going up by 10 times because each place is 10 times more than the place before. Okay, I had a comma right here, which is kind of like the person announcing, dun, da, 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 we have a new period coming on it. It's the thousands period. So I'm going to have 3 places here this time. Because remember, we talked about each period, which is a grouping of 3 numbers. Each period groups 3 numbers. Okay, so the next is, so I got ones, tens, hundreds, 10 times more. Remember, is just adding another 0, which would make 1,000. So 1,000, so this is the thousands place. 10 times more is the 10,000s place. Ten times more than that would be the 100,000s place. I don't even know if you can see this all the way down. I'm writing thousands. And then, so I just did groups of 3, right? That's a period. So this is the thousands period. It's done. So I need to have another comma, dun, 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 announcing the next period. This next period is called the millions period. And one thing that you were so lucky about today in 4th grade is that in 4th grade, we only have to go to the millions. So we don't even have to do the next one, but I bet you could figure it out, right? If this is ones, times 10 was 10, times 10 is the hundreds, times 10 is the thousands, times 10 is 10,000, times 10 is 100,000, times 10 is a million, what do you think would come next? If you had a million times 10, that's just a million 10 times. So you would wind up with 10 millions. That's be the next place. Then the place after that would be 10 times that, which would be the 100 millions. Then you'd be done with that period. So you'd need another comma, right? And you would need the billions period, which would start off with the billions. 10 times more would be 10 billion. Then 10 times more would be 100 billion. Then it would go on, then you'd have the trillions period, and you could go on and on and on forever because numbers are infinite. They go on forever, and they always follow the same exact pattern of being 10 times more than the place before. And that is why our number system is called the base 10 number system, because it is based off of that principle that each place in our number system is worth 10 times more than the place before it. Okay, so now let's think about what just happened. When we expanded our place values, we had our first comma right here, which we said has a name. And this comma's name was 1,000. 1,000. That's the name of the comma, and that's the number that's the word we say when we get to it. When I came to this one, I said, oh, this one ended the 1,000 period, and it was the start of the millions period. This name of this comma is million. Now, I want you to notice something really quick. There is a difference between the name of the comma and the name of the place. The place actually has an S on the end of it. Like this place right here is called the millions place with an S. The comma's name, just million. Okay, so the comma over here, name is 1,000. The place right next to it is called the thousands. Okay, so the places have an S on the end, but the comma's names do not. So if I'm going to just pick up some random numerals and I'm going to pop them in here, okay? So I'm going to have like a 7, 4, 3, 2, 5, 6, and an 8. Okay, so I want to read this number. Okay, remember, I'm looking for groups of 3, and I'm going to read the groups of 3 just like I did in kindergarten. Right? Right here, I'm looking for a group of 3. I don't have 3, so I just have that one number. It's a 7. Okay, so I'm going to read it just like I should, right? It's the number 7. So I say 7. Then I come to the comma. The comma's name is million, so I have 7 million. Now I'm going to look for a group of 3 numbers. I have 4, 3, 2. I want to read that just like I did when I was younger, and I would say that's 432. So far I have 7 million, 432. Oh, here's a comma. I have to say the comma's name. The comma's name is 1,000. And then I have a group of 3 numbers that I read just like I always have, 568. So if I read this whole big number, I would have it like this: 7,432,568. So some important things to remember for today. First of all, the names of the places. So we know the ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions. And each place is 10 times more than the place before. Okay, the names of the commas are really the only time we ever say the word million, and the only time I ever say the word 1,000 is if I come to a comma. I never say it any other time. Okay, so I'm only reading numbers in groups of 3, and the only time I ever say the word million or I ever say the word 1,000 is if I come to a comma. Okay, so when I read this, 7,432,568. Okay, that's how we read multi-digit whole numbers. Okay, today we do have a practice that you'll need to click on and get working on. But before you do that, there's a secret word that was for today's lesson. And I want you to write this in the text box. And the secret word today is this: swamp. It's how we remembered where the decimal was, right? So whenever you write it in your text box, there's a couple things you need to do to make sure you get it right. So it's spelled S-W-A-M-P, and these are all going to be lowercase letters. If you don't use lowercase letters, you're going to miss it because it has to be exactly right to move on, okay? So this just proves that you watched this lesson. So the word swamp is what you're going to be writing in the text box, okay? So if you guys have any questions, hop on to Ask Your Teacher, send a message, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Bye.